Let's go now. A little life out here. What the hell's going on out here? Hey, what about that now?
Hello everybody, welcome to the UK Packers podcast. As usual, I'm your host, that's TDDNFL on Twitter, and of course follow the group at UK Packers. I'm going to give a quick snaps tutorial. I always do this thing where I go, if you didn't know what that entry was, well, jog on. So I'm going to do it, right? So Quick Snaps is our preview show, and it's accompanied by this, right? It's the little jazzy clickety fingers, right? Little clicky fingers action, signifying Quick Snaps. So when it comes on, I say it's time for, and then I throw myself around the room here and I do Quick Snaps. I fully expect, and actually it's compulsory and it's illegal not to, you have to do it with me. And I will ask you, are you doing it? Are you doing it? And then I will remark that we're doing it together. So look, I don't envision doing this tutorial again for the next 4 years. So if you hear this episode, you know what the origins of this is. It's a weird tradition that's just gone on. So you know what to do. Quick Snaps. Oh, Quick Snap pod for your big up. You doing it? You doing it? You doing it? You doing it? Hold on, let me done. Oh, you 30-year-old devil, you're unbelievable you are now. I'm going to tell your missus on you. Right, so the Cardinals going away to Arizona, Glendale, Arizona. And guess what? The Packers are favourites in this one again. Yeah, baby. So it's 6.5 point favourites, which is very hard to say. Sunday, 9:25 over this side of the pond, State Farm Stadium, Arizona, which is fun to say. And you'll be happy to know it's on Sky Sports Plus. It's on The Zone, which used to be Game Pass, and it's on Channel 5 Action. So the games that are blacked out this week are Eagles at Vikings and Commanders at Cowboys. There's rules around why things are blacked out. I won't go into them here, but if you just typed in blacked out games The Zone, they update it every week to show you which one it is. So if you're ever wondering, is it blacked out this time? The answer is no. Typically, if it's on Sky Sports, normal Sky Sports, it will be blacked out. If it's on Sky Sports Plus, it won't be. And then Channel 5 is great because it's free to air, although I think people in Ireland can't get it. Anyway, I'm just going to remind people from the very off here that the Packers have only lost one game. I know what you're thinking. The reaction out there and the calling for everybody's head, you think that their season's pretty much cooked. We've only lost one game by 3 points in a game that we should have won, but there was a blocked field goal. So I just want to remind people of that. We're coming up against the Arizona Cardinals, who, on the face of it, right, if you read any of the blogs or whatever, they're all sort of saying, oh, they're 28th in this and 77th in that. And you'd assume that they're a bad team. They are at the bottom of the NFC West. And I don't mean the bum, right, but they're at the very bottom of the NFC West. But they've some teams in there that are doing the business. The Niners, the Seahawks and the Rams all sit at 4-2, and the Cardinals are the reverse of that with 2-4. They've lost 4 straight games. It doesn't help the fact that a lot of their roster has been decimated with injury. But I just want to dig a little bit deeper, because this is what I don't see sort of whizzing around the internet. If you look at the games, if you look at the old games, like sometimes the Irish just flies out of me. They haven't lost a game by more than a touchdown. So with the Saints, they won 20-13. With the Panthers, they won 27-22. So bearing in mind, they've scored 20 points and above. And they've done that in every single one of their games, apart from the next one that I'll call out, which is the Niners. They lost by 1 point, which was 16-15. Then they lost to the Seahawks by 3 points, 23-20. And then they lost to the Titans, 22-21. So this is a team that, if you look at the other teams in their division, are 4-2. They lost 2 of their games by a single point, which is crazy. And then the final one that they lost was a nail-biter against the Indianapolis Colts, who were flying high this season, and they lost at 31-27. So again, the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm not going to say are like us because we don't have a 2-4 record. We're flying high atop the NFC North. They haven't lost by a lot, they've been beating teams by a touchdown, but they certainly haven't been losing by a lot. So I still think that this is a dangerous team. It depends though, on an awful lot of things sort of going our way in this game. But look, the Packers are absolutely sensational in the first quarter. In fact, if you look at some of our stats in the first quarter versus the final quarter, it's really jarring. We're the only team in the NFL that has had a double-digit lead in every single game we've played this season. and haven't allowed a single point in the first quarter, only to crap the bed when it gets to the second half. Now, you can understand why that is, and we can dig into it, but from a very bird's eye level, we get up this lead, and then the other team get desperate. They abandon the run, go for the pass, and then the pass game is all about obviously getting that ball out quickly, and that's what they've been doing, and we've been punished by it, and we will keep being punished by it until we can prove that we can stop it. That's just the way the NFL is. So like I said, look, the Packers are 6.5 points favoured in this one, and let's just have a quick gander at what we're up against. So the Cards, as I said, last in the NFC West, losing 4 straight. Kyler Murray is injured. Their top 2 running backs are on IR, which is James Conner and Trey Benson. Kyler Murray is sort of questionable whether he will or won't play. The one thing that I will point out is that the injury he has is a foot injury, and he's the top rusher on the Cardinals. So if he is playing, you'd hope that they try capitalise on that. That's not going to go very well, right? Because he's a sore foot with a foot injury. And even when he is out there, he's 27th in passing yards per game, 22nd in passer rating, and also, one of their top wide receivers, if not the top wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., is in concussion protocol after getting smacked against the Colts. And then on top of that, the Cardinals' offensive line have given up 16 sacks as well. So they can't protect Kyler Murray. That's why he's always scrambling and running around. He is their main rusher this season, which is crazy for a quarterback. And he's got the one thing that he needs for that to pivot is his foot, and that's where he's injured. So it all really lines up really well for the Packers. Now, again, the Packers are a run-first team. All of the stats out there show that, we pass the least amount out of all or most NFL teams, and we really lean on Josh Jacobs. If there's one strong point to this Cardinals team, it's their defense against the run. So they're 27th in total defense, which isn't great. They allow just shy of 350 yards per game. They're pretty poor against the pass, 28th against the pass. But it's their run defense that is quite good. They're 13th, I read. I think that was on Sports Illustrated. So they allow just north of 100 yards per game. So they've got some really good run stuffers in there. One of them to call out is safety Budda Baker. Nice bit of alliteration, nice name. So again, one of the weak spots for this team though is their offensive line. So they do allow an awful lot of pass rush. So it really does stack up for the Packers to do well. And if we can get our run game going, I think we really punish this team. And the one person that sort of stands out for us obviously is Matthew Golden lately, right? Because he's been stretching the field. And if you look at his average yards per catch, it's 15.1. So on paper and with your eyeballs, you can see that Matthew Golden is proving to be the vertical threat that we hoped he would be. The one thing I will say is that our strength is in our tight end, Tucker Kraft, right? He leads the Packers with yardage. He's our top receiver, which is nuts. Not in touchdowns. Romeo Dobbs has that record. So you would expect the Packers to lean on Tucker Kraft again in this game. And again, hopefully we don't sky balls to Luke Musgrave as well. And lucky for us, the Cardinals are the second worst against tight ends this year. So I mean, it just makes sense. Try hit Tucker Kraft as much as we can. See if we can get the run game going early. Rack up the points early on them and try force them into passing. Now, you'd sort of say, well, look, Steve, they don't have Kyler Murray, right? I mean, it's going to be great. He's not a great passer anyway, so if they have to try get themselves and dig themselves out of a hole by him passing, brilliant. But if he doesn't play, they're going to put out a guy called Jacoby Brissett, who an awful lot of people will be very familiar with his time bouncing around the league. He came in against the Colts last week and he threw for, I think it was 320 or more yards and plenty of touchdowns. So he's highly capable. And of course, you put a second string guy out there, and this guy had a starting job, remember, around the NFL. And I mean, who are they going to go to with their wide receiver if he remains in concussion protocol? Well, they have an excellent tight end called Trey McBride. He's their top pass catcher. In fact, it's bizarre that there's two teams in the NFC whose top receiver is a tight end, and it's the Packers and it's the Arizona Cardinals. So Trey McBride is going to get plenty of ball, and the Packers are not great. They allow 8 most yards to tight ends, and you could see that on the face of it, right? Is that when they have tight ends in there, we get punished, and it makes complete sense because we seem to get good pressure on the quarterback, by and large, right? Let's just brush over that, and then of course your safety valve is going to be a running back, or your tight end, or of course a capable fast receiver who can run slants. So we've been getting punished against tight ends, which isn't great. So when you look at the Arizona Cardinals, their offense is, down the bottom in the league. Their rushing leaders are the quarterback, and if he can't play, their top 2 running backs are on IR. They've got their strong point really is their defense, particularly their rushing defense. They're not too great against the pass. And all of that on paper, you look at the Packers, and the Packers are running sort of similar numbers in ways, So some of the players that I'm looking out for this is Matthew Golden, although he was on the injury report, but I think he's full participation with a shoulder injury. Romeo Dobbs, solid hands. They're poor against tight ends, so I would hope to see multiple tight end sets out there with Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. I think that with a running back the caliber of Josh Jacobs, who was sick last week, I'd love to see him get the run game going, because if we do, I think it just opens up this game even more and we sort of grind it out. But the caveat with this is, like I've pointed out, the Arizona Cardinals have only scored under 20 points once this season. So they're very capable of putting points up on the Packers. They're at home. So I just think that, the key to this game is obviously our defense having a bounce back game. Keyshawn Nixon in particular. I mean, it was absolutely run ragged against Jamar Chase last week. But again, he's Jamar Chase, right? He's second in the league for pass breakup. So he's doing really well. And his coverage at times is almost criminal, right? To the point where I think he had 3 penalties in that game last week. So you'd expect, and that's all you can want from your cornerbacks, right? You want them to play tight and not to sort of bust coverages, and that's what Keyshawn Nixon is doing in fairness to him. And he even had Xavier McKinney helping him out, and it still didn't go right. But this thing, the Packers, you would hope, start fast like they always do now, and they build up that lead, and then they're able to hold on to it in the second half. Luckily for us, the only team that's probably just as bad, if not worse than us, when it comes to the third and fourth quarter, giving up points, the fourth quarter in particular, is the Arizona Cardinals. So I think if we can close out the half with a healthy lead, well then I think we can sort of fight back against a bounce back in the third quarter and then finish the game strong. So look, I expect the Packers to win this game. If we want to get to the final dance, we have to. We're coming up against a team who's 2-4, who's on a 4-game losing streak. They're heavily banged up. They're not that great on defense when it comes to passing. So I think that's definitely the place to go. But I think if we can get the run game going, it's going to be brilliant. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? This is Quick Snaps, our quick and snappy podcast. We'll be watching the game. As I said, it's a nice and healthy time of 9:25. So if I don't get on straight after the game, the podcast sort of reviewing how the game went will be out on Monday, as my voice goes. And I've been at Steady the NFL. You've been the best bleeding audience ever. And we're at UK Packers. Make sure you follow us on socials and follow along on all of our socials on our Discord channel for the game. But until then, let's go Pack Go.